We have a much awaited session celebrating founders who are building proudly Indian brands with global ambition while balancing authenticity, scalability, localization, and customer experience. This is From India with Love and a Touch of Spice. Please welcome Samir Kukreja, founder and CEO of Dasanaya Hospitality, to be the moderator of this session. Joining him, give it up for Anirudh Nopani, co-founder of Brick Oven. Dhruv Kohli, founder, Boba Bhai. Come on, little louder, I can't hear you. Hassan Patel, founder and CEO, Korikin. Priyanka Rudrappa, co-founder and CEO, Cafe Amudham. And Sankrit Iyer, co-founder of the Filter Coffee. Round of applause, warm welcome to all the panelists. Over to you, Samir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good to see a almost full hall. From India with FFCC always comes up with cute names. With love and a touch of spice. Okay. So we have very interesting, and we were having a conversation before. This is the first time, by the way, I'm moderating a panel where I don't know any. I met all my panelists for the first time this morning. But it's wonderful because that just shows such vibrant entrepreneurship in the restaurant industry. So among the areas that we're going to cover, and this topic close to my heart, is how Indian entrepreneurs with Indian concepts, concepts based in India, whether they're serving Indian food or Korean food or coffee, how they're succeeding, how they compete, and how they are carving out niches for themselves in what has become a very competitive space. So if you look at restaurants, I think earlier you used to look at 5-10 year horizons. I think now you have to look at the ecosystem every 3 years, not even 5 years. There is, and we were discussing this, is how certain parts of Bangalore and how there is just so much new opening up, whether it's parts of Bangalore, between Delhi, Bangalore, and Bombay. That's where most brands open up for the first time. There's, I'd say, fairly explosive growth of restaurants across formats. A lot of the growth is QSR coffee, that probably, and CDR, casual dining. There's also growth in regional Indian cuisines, international cuisines, and there's also, I'd say, growth in, there are also new, whether it's the speakeasy bars or they're new concepts, they're new kind of locations and formats. So what does point to is that there is obviously enough consumer demand for all these different formats, different concepts. And there is a lot of innovation that is happening. Because what I see when I talk to entrepreneurs is a lot of innovation, a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of innovation, a lot of concept innovation, which is, what is absolutely essential for the kind of F&B ecosystem to continue to thrive. So, by the way, for the people who don't know me, I have been in the industry for 36 years. Worked at setting up Pizza Hut in India. And my last full-time role was CEO of Nirula's from 2006 till early 12. Scaled the brand from 35 to 85 restaurants. For the last 4, I was also the president of the National Restaurant Association of India and a trustee. I'm today on the governing body of the Tourism and Hospitality Skill Council, and for the last 14 years been running a, I'd say, hospitality and retail consulting business, Dasanaya Hospitality, and we work with hotels, restaurants, interesting product and solution services solutions to the industry, and we do a lot of work with both startups and with small to mid-size kind of companies. So, with that introduction, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to kind of quickly introduce themselves and their brands, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. My name is Anirudh Nopani. I'm the co-founder at Brickoven and Brian now. Um, Brickoven is Brickoven is it's a 10-year-old brand now. We primarily do sourdough pizzas. We focus on locally sourced ingredients, and now we make our own cheese as well.
Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Sankrit. I'm the co-founder of the Filter Coffee. We're also 10 years old, and we have 10 stores now in Bangalore. We're also co-founded a new brand now, which is in our FMCG range called Think Origins, which spans across the category with chips, savories, traditional sweets, and fusion as well. I think our story has been very interesting. Back in 2014, we just wanted to set up a proof of concept. We had a very small thought in our mind. We saw all of these other lovely cuisines. We saw Italian, we saw North Indian, we saw Korean, we saw all of these other nice cuisines come up, set up nice stores, and we saw people pay a decent amount to have a good experience. But we saw South Indian being left behind. And our question was, is our value limited to only how good the product is? Are you not willing to sit down, dine in, and have a good experience? And the first weekend, we pretty much got our answer because we were full up. And then we did realize that this is not so much a demand problem, but it's a supply side problem. Unless you bring it to the market and give people the opportunity to enjoy their South Indian in a meaningful way, even if it's not fine dine, but we should start pushing our level up away from just pure standing quick service to better storefronts and better experiences. We surely thought customers would appreciate that. And no better testing ground for us than Bangalore, which is the mecca for South Indian food. Incredibly competitive, but the good thing is it keeps us on our toes because we can't slip up even for a moment with regard to quality, with regard to pricing, and with regard to everything else. So it's been a wonderful journey so far. Me, along with my co-founder Avneet, who couldn't be here today, we run the business and we have a strategic investor on board over the last 3 years or so. The idea to bring an investor on board in a strategic capacity was not to force our hand to scale really quickly. That's obviously on the cards, but to scale the right way. And a big part of our strategy there was to establish a very robust backend in order for us to be able to go and open front ends thereafter, so that we don't suffer, in terms of quality and consistency. And as a counteracting balance, along with the food business, which brings in a lot of volatility, we are introducing our FMCG range today, so that we have some sort of stability and insulation from the various kind of input pressures that we feel on a standalone food business. So that's us today, hoping to take a casual dining format to the rest of India pretty soon. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hassan, and I'm the founder of Korikin. We are building a Korean QSR from Bangalore here, and we want to build a Korean cuisine which is fast, affordable, and accessible to the Indian masses. What makes us truly Indian is that we are adapting the Korean food habits and flavors for the Indian behavior and the Indian palate. So while our inspiration is Korean, our execution is focused to deliver to the Indian audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Priyanka Rudrappa. I'm co-founder and CEO at Cafe Amudam. We are a South Indian chain of restaurants, basically started out in 2022, and we are based in Bangalore and Delhi. We are 12 outlets so far. And we focus on serving authentic South Indian flavors in a modern and chic ambience. And also, one of our key feature is that we don't focus on one particular state, but we are an amalgamation of different South Indian states where we serve even Kerala parathas and Andhra papu, and our sambar is also more like a Tamil-based sambar. So yeah, and we are also strategically invested and supported from last 2 years. Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. Okay. First topic. You know, we discussed this earlier. So, if you look at burger, pizza, and ice cream, in Indian brands have not been able to scale to the level of the kind of global MNCs. And eventually all the global MNCs are being run by Indian partners. They're not being run. They're all invested in by an Indian entity and Indian people. So, but they've just scaled more. So the question is really what do Indian QSRs, what do they need to do to be able to in the Indian, and even this includes the say the Haldirams or Bikaner wala. So even if you look at the Haldirams, Bikaner wala, or Bangalore has its own chain wala, none of them have scaled significantly. They've all scaled to a certain extent. So the question is that what do you all think that Indian brands need to do? What to take it to the next level? You you wanted to start this?
I think this is a great question, and this is something we've constantly pondered upon internally and with anybody we come across in the community, right? All of us are pretty well traveled. When we go abroad, we see these brands. Maybe we hear about them for the first time, and suddenly you find out they have 1,000 stores or 2,000 stores, right? And they're not even in the top 20% or 30% of the entire, supply that's available globally. In fact, just if I can share a short anecdote, when we opened our first 3 stores, we opened really large format stores, and on a standalone basis, they were incredibly profitable, right? But pretty soon we hit a brick wall because we're like, this is just not scalable. You cannot put so much real estate and manpower and operations at work, unit after unit, and then try to scale to 100, 200 units. The problem was staring us in the face, right? And then we paused at that moment because, like you rightly pointed out, while we have good examples of brands that are trying it in India, we still don't truly have brands that have done it at scale. So we actually took the effort of going to see who are these brands who've done them in the casual dining space abroad. 2 specific brands that we studied. We studied Din Tai Fung, which is based in Asia, and then we studied Chipotle, which is based in the US, right? And both stellar examples of why they're able to do what they're able to do at scale. So much so that when you go to densely populated areas, you can stumble upon to these restaurants every 100 yards, 200 yards, and they will be at capacity and running, right? So we really, really got down to the brass tacks to ask ourselves what they're doing and why they're this way. And it was very obvious that the entire name of the game was, just operations and SOP, right? We believe, like all founders who've been here today, are really passionate about what we do. And I don't think that takes away from eventually what we want to execute. But the truth is, all these brands had that passion, but were able to bring the level of excellence in operations, which basically meant they were running like mini factories, right? They departed away from, core need for key personnel in every location, and they said that we can get people into a training program and get them up to speed in 2 weeks time for them to go and execute what we need to execute thereafter. And that's something we drew a lot of inspiration from, which actually helped us set up a 40,000 square foot back-end facility. And the reason why we set up this facility is not because we need the scale today, but we realize that if we don't have that operational excellence and DNA from day one, there is surely going to be a time when we stumble, when we hit certain scale.
Both great examples of brands, and both not in India.
That's
And
true.
interestingly,
That's
but
true.
both you're right, brands that I respect for consistency and great product. You wanted to come in on this?
Yeah, when the liberalization hit in India, when the Domino's and the McDonald's and started coming in, what they came in with was the systems, the processes, the consistency, and the branding. And I feel like the Indian brands are now catching up to that, and even slightly doing better. Obviously, at a smaller scale, it does take a lot of time and effort to translate it on a larger scale. Indian brands backed by Indian founders understand what the Indian consumers really want. Today, along with those SOPs and operations and building that consistency, we see that consumers not don't just want global brands; they want globally inspired inspirations, but at at a level that they are comfortable with as well, and it should be culturally close to them. Is what we are seeing at Korekin as well. That they don't really want global brands coming in, but they want something that is adapted to their cultural roots, and that's what Indian founders should now look at building at and building it at scale. These systems and these SOPs and stuff like that, and technology is coming up really fast, and people are taking up taking it up really fast. But I think being culturally rooted is something that's really important, and that is what's going to differentiate Indian brands with the brands coming from the Western world.
So that takes us, kind of into the next area of discussion, which is localization. In this context of the conversation today, it's how do you localize when you go city to city? Do you localize when you go different parts of Bangalore, North Bangalore, South Bangalore, Central Bangalore? And what elements do you localize or have you localized in terms of food, in terms of interiors, in terms of format, in terms of service elements? Priyanka?
When we started out in Bangalore, it was pretty much very straightforward because, again, South Indian cuisine is something more considered the staple, and people are very used to it, and the acceptability is always there. When we ventured into Delhi, we had to relook and think a few things. One was talking about the menu. We were sure that we wanted to stay authentic and never wanted to change anything that we were offering, which is what we believed in. And we did see that it worked for us really really well when it comes to the cuisine part of it. But again, talking about the service aspect, here in Bangalore, there is an widespread acceptability for QSR, and people are ready to walk in, just stand, grab something quickly, eat, and go. But whereas in a market like Delhi, we had to relook and think about this, and we went more like a casual dine-in, which also kind of really worked for us because people there, probably the culture or probably many aspects like the weather and all of that, they would like to just casually sit there, get their families, and spend some time. So we worked it differently there, and that's been pretty helpful. And even when we talk about the ambience, we had to go a little bit more elevated than what it used to come across here in Bangalore.
Anirudh, you also had some things, some points you'd like to share here.
Yeah, sure. In terms of localization, I don't think for brick oven, since we do pizzas, it doesn't mean slapping on butter chicken on top of a pizza, right? It's a little more nuanced. When we started with a single store, I was the one making all the pizzas. And when you see videos, when you see people making Neapolitan style pizzas abroad, it's all in a 450 degree Celsius oven. It's cooked in 90 seconds. Comes out really puffy, but really soft as well, right? So when we started to scale and we started to attract a larger crowd, when we were one store, it was 26 seats, it was a niche crowd that we were attracting. But when we started to scale, we started to see that a lot of people are very used to having a little more stability in their crust. They wanted a little more crispness. They wanted the pizza basically to be cooked a little more. So for us, localization meant just dropping the temperature of the oven by about 50 degrees. What it does, it cooks the pizza a little longer, it makes it a little more crisp, but it still keeps the familiar aspects of a Neapolitan style pizza. It keeps it light, it also melts the cheese a little more, right? Which is what us as Indians also prefer. When you go to Naples, when you eat a margherita pizza, it's sparse amounts of mozzarella and it's barely cooked, right? It's just about melted. But here, those are the small nuances that we sort of look at in terms of localization. We don't really look at, I don't know, tandoori chicken or anything as such. We haven't done it till now. I can't say if we're not going to do it in the future. But for now, yeah, that's what localization is for us.
Okay, so here's the question I didn't tell you about. Most of you have, all of you have raised funding. Okay, and I'm sure there are lots of entrepreneurs, maybe pre-funding. Uh, First question: what's the right time? Time means, is it number of outlets? Is it a certain revenue threshold? Or what was the time when you went funding? What was that? What was the turning factor which made you decide that no, I want to go raise external funding? So that's the first question. Anyone to answer it? Well,
Yeah. It was pretty simple for us. We were bootstrapped for 9 years. We opened about 8 stores all by ourselves. But since I've already mentioned, make everything from scratch, right? With our dough, our sourdough, even the mozzarella that we make is everything from scratch. So when we were looking at the next, let's say, 3 years of expansion, we needed to set up the back end for it. So, see, a store for us, every store breaks even maybe at the max at 1.5 years, right? So you can actually take debt to service that. But when you're looking at setting up the next round of scale, right? What are you looking at? You're looking at different cities, and when you go to a different city, you need to open up a minimum number of stores to make it viable. You're looking at operational break even at some point, right? So when you're looking at the next leg for us, at least, we needed to set up a large enough central kitchen, a commissary, as well as a factory that makes the cheese for us, because that's our biggest ingredient. So that's when we decided, and you cannot take on debt and service it for that level. So that's where we took on.
Sankrit?
So I think the one thing we've understood through this journey is that raising capital, you must have a very clear problem that you're trying to solve. And the one thing I do want to highlight is scale is not a problem. I think that's an outcome. So you've got to have a really clear understanding of why you need the capital and what it's going to solve for you. And then if things work out, you'll be able to build scale, right? So for us, it was very clear because I think Priyanka can attest to this. Building in a city like Bangalore, I'm sitting beside, founders and share similar locations with them, right? I pay the same rentals, I pay the same utilities, but my average order value is probably a third or half of what they're able to build, right? So we have a very strict price ceiling that we work with in South Indian and Bangalore. Although my per gram take rate, if I were to compare it to another cuisine, they're realizing 3 times the value. But because South Indian is so much in supply in the city of Bangalore, and because the consumer is so clear about what their demands are for South Indian, we have no leeway to increase our pricing beyond a certain point, even if we have a differentiated offering, right? So the only way we can make this a continuously successful, profitable business is if we improve our processes and backend. Our inputs need to get more and more efficient. Our backend needs to get more and more efficient. And thereafter, we kind of build margin efficiency through that. And as and when the pricing moves up for the entire cohort, we kind of move up our pricing as well. So that was the reason we, took on money to build this kind of backend, build this kind of efficiency. And what I was alluding to earlier with the brands we went and saw abroad is that these systems are in place so that you win at scale. So the entire problem statement became for us is how do we become an investable South Indian business? And that's what we were trying to solve with the capital.
Okay. So Priyanka, to you, this one, how, you said we were discussing the types, the investors you have. So what's your advice for people when you're doing this first/second round of funding? What kind of investors should you look for? Should you look for investors from the industry who can actually, help mentor you, or look for investors who are just patient capital? What are the key parameters you think that you look for?
I feel it's more like a combination, and also it varies from different founders. But definitely, we were looking at strategic partners who can also kind of support us and mentor us through the journey. Frankly, like not coming from the industry and striving to be here, you always need some guidance and support.
Anyone else wants to add to that? The second part, the type of investors you've got and how they, in terms of advice for others, what type of investors and what value can they add early on?
Just patient investors.
Patient capital.
You need patience in this business.
Okay, well done. Yeah, you guys did a good job, even though it was a googly question. Okay, now honest answers. One biggest challenge you faced in your business over the last 2 years, even if it's not fully solved, if you're going about solving it, and if it's fully solved, how did you solve it?
I think I can go first. I think obviously the world has been really volatile over the last 2 to 3 years, and I think since COVID, most people in the F&B space can tell you there's just been no respite, right? It's been one large challenge after another. And I think that kind of breaks momentum in terms of having some sort of stability. Because it's always good to have a nice base to build off of, have some sort of predictability. But I think that coupled with the pace of innovation and the number of brands entering the space has absolutely kept us on our toes, right? You cannot take a moment's time to rest on your laurels because there are too many unpredictable factors, right from input costs, gas, you have variabilities like elections going on. So you have a manpower crisis, you have an oil crisis, and this has just been backloaded one after another. That specifically for our industry and what we're trying to build out in the South Indian space in Bangalore is with a very strict price ceiling. So it's really, really pushed us time and again to think outside the box and see what we can do to kind of, mitigate these kind of unforeseeables.
Okay. Go
For
ahead.
the
Ask.
last couple of years, we've noticing that it's not just us, but general market that the online aggregators and the consumers are being pushed towards, and the fact that convenience is becoming a more important thing for people is kind of a little detrimental for our industry. Swiggy, Zomato coming in and with their large chunks of commissions.
You know, I'll just say something about Swiggy, Zomato. So in Bangalore, the NRAI brings out a report every 3 years. I used to chair that. This is the 2019 report. Manu Chandra and I were on stage with Nandan Nikalani. And he was asked this question. This was 7 years ago, so early days. And he said, because a few people brought this Zomato Swiggy issue up, he said they're a necessary evil. Learn to live with them and stop complaining about them because they are not going anywhere. They got huge funding. Learn to live with them. So,
No,
I
100%.
really totally, when clients come to me and complain, I'm like, don't complain. If you're so unhappy, then get out, just delist. No one is willing to do that. You can't, right? So,
No, 100%. They are necessary evil for all of us, and they bring in the discoverability and visibility for us. But what we are doing is trying to build a little more dine-in and an experiential format so that we don't over depend on our aggregators, and we push our dine-in offers and dine-in experience a little better so that we have it under our control. So that's what
any
we're
of you
working on.
have tried with direct delivery? Where you
We-
do your
we
own
tried it.
delivery? Yeah.
We did try it.
You did try. It didn't work.
No, it didn't. It didn't work. You have to. They have too many. They have too many things going for them, right?
Yeah,
They have. It's an aggregated. You have so many restaurants. You have
Yeah.
the
No.
kind of discounts that they can give you. Even if the brands don't want to give discounts,
Yes.
they give it from their end, right? So it's very hard to compete.
You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cannot.
Yeah. No, but though there's a trend that I'm seeing with brands, especially small to mid-sized people running 1 to 5 to 8, like you guys, doing direct delivery, tying up with a logistics partner, not keeping boys and bikes, uh, and just the ability to own your customer, right? To get the number, to have the database, to be able to market to them, all that which you don't get with the aggregators. Brands are doing, and some brands are making traction. So, customers seem to be willing to adopt. If they're really clear that they want your brand, they'd be happy to order on your WhatsApp or direct with you or something.
Depends on how fast you want to grow.
Yeah, that's true. Priyanka,
How much you have to burn
how
for
much
that.
you have to burn? Okay, why don't you answer the Priyanka, the challenge, biggest challenge you faced in the last 2 years.
Right. One constant challenge that we are always striving to achieve is the staffing bit. We are mostly focused on heavy staffing, and every month, every time we are trying to get new people, train them, and keep that consistent as well. Yeah, I say would be.
Attrition is a huge challenge.
Yeah,
And
huge.
this is at entry level or also at the managerial level, both levels?
Both levels,
Both
I would
levels.
say. Sometimes managerial level is a lot better because we do know whom we are hiring,
Sure.
and they do come with an understanding with what the brand has to offer.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, big challenge. Right? Anirudh?
No, I think same. I think we were talking about this before we came up here. Manpower is definitely a challenge when you're looking to scale. When you're doing one store, then maybe not so much, right? Because you can find a good team and you can also work harder at retaining them. But what happens when you're looking for scale, you're doing like, for us, it's about 25 people per store. I think for her, she was saying it's 50, so it's much more challenging for her. But for us, we consider ourselves an experience. You want to come to our store, you want to eat the Pizza Hut, you want the service, you want the entire package. And when you're scaling and when you have attrition, to first of all find the right person who's actually doing everything inside the store and also retaining that right person is the challenge that we are trying to address at this point.
So I have a question counter for you. Do you feel that as an industry, not you specifically, we pay adequately, especially at the entry level jobs? Do we pay as an industry? And this is actually to me the problems, including luxury hotels. I, I think part of the problem the industry is facing is because this kind of person who can work here can also go work in retail, can go work in a KPO, BPO, much easier environments than restaurant or a hotel. So do we pay enough? Does the industry pay enough?
Uh, I think that's a difficult answer, right? Because on paper, the answer is no. But what the brands have to do to keep entry level employees in terms of accommodation, in terms of food, in terms of healthcare, in terms of everything that comes along with it, actually adds up to a much, much larger amount than what the math is telling you, right? And I think when you put all of that into consideration, it is really difficult for people without skill to come into a tier one city and still be able to take that much home if they're afforded a place to live and their meals are taken care of. I think it becomes a near impossible thing for them to go anywhere, including PPOs, because then they have to fend for themselves when it comes to their food and accommodation.
Is that a common thing, giving accommodation and meals? Is that fairly common for all of you?
For us,
Yeah?
for us
Yeah?
in Bangalore, in
Oh,
our
okay.
sector,
Bangalore.
very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's right. That's good. Okay. I think we're open for Q&A. Please raise your hand. If it's a question, mic at the back, please. If it's a question for a specific panelist, please address it. If it's a general question, I will get one person to answer it. Also, please introduce yourself just briefly and the company you represent. Yeah. So,
Hi, my name is Gopi Shankar. I work for the Australian government. My question is to the two founders of South Indian restaurants in Bangalore. See, for far too long, South Indian cuisine, which I love, I'm a South Indian, has always been casual dining. When I have international guests coming into India or Bangalore, apart from what's usual Indian cuisine, which is naan and paneer, if you want to give them a good understanding of South Indian, there's no fine dining South Indian restaurant. For a short time, there was something called South Indies, a short-lived experiment. Why don't we actually see fine dining South Indian
so
restaurants?
good, very good question. The only place you see South Indian fine dining is in the five-star hotels. ITC has a nice brand, a couple of others, but they're also a handful. They're not many.
And they're not actually quite real South
Sure,
Indian.
sure. Who wants to answer that? Priyank?
Yeah.
Would you want to answer it, Sankrit? Good.
Yeah, I can take that. I think especially Bangalore is just a function of demand, to be honest with you. I think the closest parallel I can probably take to is what pizza is to New York is idli and dosa to Bangalore, right? So you have a billionaire who'll walk down the road and have a $2 slice because they've been having it for 30 years. And the same thing happens in Bangalore, right? So there's only so much you can elevate. And after a lot of battle, we've come to a casual dining stage now. So I think we still have to go on that journey and eventually elevate it and bring in concepts which are fine dining. But truly, it's a function of demand and the price that the consumer is willing to pay just outside of the product.
Thank you. There was a question here somewhere. Yeah, sorry, can we get the mic in the front? Yeah. There in the corner, next to the vesicular.
Hi, Karthik from Tome Cafe. So my wife and I run a Japanese home kitchen. We plan to expand in future. My question is to all of you actually. How do you maintain consistency of customer experience, especially we visit that Kamanalli street, right? You have the Amudam, then you have the filter coffee. Filter coffee is the oldest one. And we've had an excellent experience at the filter coffee over the years from the first outlet and everywhere else. How do you manage to do it? Like, I know you have like multiple levels of staff and
Sure.
um,
Who wants to answer that? Very good question. Consistency of experience, Priyanka. Good.
I think you have standardized SOPs and always training the staff ahead and keeping a tab over the managers is a primemost thing. But again, that can also vary. But time and tested, you have to be invested and work around it.
I'll add to that, having run restaurants. I think beyond the thing, you have to check through third party and external audit. You have to have someone or a friend, if you're small, come in and experience your restaurant, your cafe, and give you honest feedback on the food, the service, the ambience, right? So you have to get kind of really honest customer feedback. And I feel if you are a F&B brand owner and you actually just spend time in your restaurant area chatting with customers, today customers very happy to give feedback. They may not just give it, without being asked, but I think, that helps you find out the issues and helps you solve the consistency problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Filter coffee, right? I think the way you guys manage the experience is excellent, but I feel you've not expanded in terms of number of outlets versus, say, an Amudam, for example, or even Rameshwaram Cafe. Is that a conscious decision,
Go
or do
ahead,
you
son.
plan to like expand more?
Yeah, no, I think that has been conscious because when we raised capital for about 18 months, our focus was on setting up the back end of the processes. And now we are accelerating the journey of opening stores. So today we're at 10 stores, and hopefully you'll see a lot more stores coming your way. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, question at the back. If you can, for the lady at the back. Just sorry, if you can stand up again so he can see you. Yeah, thank you. He's coming.
Hello, my name is Sandhya Chaitanya. This question is to everybody, in fact, everybody else also in the hall. We see a lot of new age, modern thinking, educated entrepreneurs like you start food businesses, but your procurement seems to go back to the uneducated way of working with aggregators who don't have an SOP based procurement or delivery. It's been a challenge that I, as a founder of Smart Plate Solutions, we are an aggregator procurement company for restaurants and Horeca specifically. We face because no matter how educated the entrepreneur is, how well versed and how well traveled he is, but when it comes down to his procurement strategies, it goes back to my local vendor. I know him for so many years. So how does a business like ours step into your world of forward thinking and working with you?
Good.
I think as a company, we really pride ourselves in how we've built our procurement over the years. We, of course, started with local vendors, and we've tried multiple of them, and we've actually grown with them. So they've also grown with us. Um, for us, that's how it works. We're not really working with hyperpure or anything as of yet. Maybe in the future, but what's happened is that over time we've built relationships with the vendors that we were working with right from the start. They've actually been very good to us. They supply at the right time. They've also taken up more operations for us in terms of supplying to individual outlets. They also do, some of them even do washed vegetables, etc. And so they've actually grown with us. And because of that, I think they also prefer us as a client, right? They also prefer working with us because they also see us growing. So that's how we've done it in terms of procurement till now.
If I can just add to that, I think Anirudh hit the nail on the head because I think the ecosystem needs to grow together. You just can't be profitable and have the big tech companies and the big restaurants make money while everyone else is not a part of the journey. So, like Anirudh said, from day one, we've had tremendous relationship with our vendors. In fact, we don't use any credit with the vendors. We do cash and carry. Because my co-founder, who comes from with extensive FMCG experience, right, is set up our entire procurement and chain. And the truth is, you may not be knowing what cost you're paying with a 30-day carry or a 60-day carry, but surely there's a cost involved. And now, because of those excellent relationships, it's not just monetary. Quite often, when oil prices are going to spike, we're the first ones that are intimated by our local vendors that you should kind of think about this and so on and so forth. So I think that's obviously something we take a lot of pride in as well.
Great. Thank you. Any more questions? Audience, anyone? No? Okay. Well, FFCC should be happy because we are finishing our session 2 minutes and 57 seconds early. But thank you all. That was interesting, and thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you, Samir. That was a stellar panel. And let's hear it once more for this panel. Please come forward for your group photo. Next up, we have